You might think you need After Effects and pricey plugins like GeoLayers to make pro map animations, but I'm going to show you how to get the same professional results using the free version of DaVinci Resolve. Let me show you what we'll be creating. Okay, so the first thing you're going to want to do is come to QGIS. This is the software that we're going to be using to get the satellite maps and the other map imagery. So just go to this website and click download. Once it's downloaded, you're going to want to open up QGIS. Now, once QGIS is open, you're going to want to open a new project. So go to project, new. So once your project is open, you're going to want to come into the coordinates and type in world. So then the map will come up. So for example, if this is going to be the composition, once you start adding features, don't move it around because you're going to have to end up repositioning stuff in DaVinci. If you've opened QGIS for the first time, you're going to want to install some plugins. So go to plugins, manage and install plugins. And then the plugins that you're going to want to install are Quick Map Services. So you can see here, I've already installed them, but Quick Map Services, Map Tiler is also another one, and you can just install these. Another good plugin is Quick OSM, and another good plugin is HCM GIS as well. Okay, so once you have Quick Map Services installed, you're going to go to Web, Quick Map Services, and then you can choose from all of these different satellite imagery data sources. In this case, we're just going to go for Google, and then Google Satellite. And then you can see that the satellite will appear in its own layer in the Layers tab. So for now, we're just going to disable the satellite image. Now we're going to select the US as our feature. So you're going to go up to here to select features. And then we're going to just click the US. So you're going to go to the world map layer, right click export, and then save selected features as. And we're just going to name this US and press enter. So then you can see that that's come up as a separate layer here above the world map. We're going to start exporting these features. Bring up the satellite layer, and then we're going to want to create new layout. So go to project, new print layout, and we'll just call this map. Okay, so now we have this print layout here. So we're going to click on the white space, and then the background we want to reduce. Actually, it doesn't matter because it's the satellite. So we can leave that as it is, but we do want to change the size to custom, and we're going to be doing it in 4K. So change the width and height measurements to pixels, and then you want to choose the 4K dimensions. Okay, so now we have the correct dimensions. We're going to want to go to this button here, which is to add map. So click that, and then you want to make sure that you get the very corner, and then click and drag to the other corner. And it might take a second to render, but then you'll see the map displayed on this print layout. There is obviously this white stuff here, but we can change the framing in DaVinci Resolve, so don't worry too much about that. Okay, so now we're going to want to export this as an image. So you have these export options here. You can export it as a SVG, which we'll be doing later. But because this is just the satellite map, we're just going to be clicking export as image. Save. And now we can remove the satellite, and we can bring back the US world map. Now it's important, again, do not move the framing once you've exported the satellite, because that will mess up the alignment. So not moving anything, just selecting a new layer, and then you can press Control P to enter a new map layout. So we'll just call this US. And press OK. So again, same procedure, just click the white space. Now this time we do want to reduce the opacity on the background, because we want this to be, we don't want that white space in the background. So reduce the opacity and go back to the sizing. And again, we just want to choose the 4K dimensions in pixels. Okay, so once we have the dimensions, same thing, we want to go to add map and then drag it from corner to corner. You can see this white background. So again, we want to remove that. So just click the white background, and then should be able to remove it here. So uncheck background. Now we have two options. We can either export this as an SVG or PNG. I'm going to be showing you guys both methods in this video, but in general, I prefer the SVG method because it gives you more flexibility. Export as image, that will export PNG. And then again, you want to export as a SVG as well. Okay, so now we're in DaVinci Resolve and we're going to want to create a Fusion composition. Drag that onto the timeline and we're going to open this in Fusion. Okay, so first things first, we're going to create a 3D scene, merge 3D, and then a renderer 3D. I'm just pressing shift space to get a new node and then connect that to the media out. Finally, we want to connect a camera 3D. So shift space, camera 3D, and then connect that to the merge 3D. Okay, so now we want to add our satellite image. Okay, so I forgot to do something. So now we're going to create a zoomed out version of this map. So take the scale, paste the scale into a calculator and times by 2. And then we can paste that into the scale. And that will then scale out the map. And again, we can just export as a PNG. Okay, so now we have our 3D scene. We can start adding in our assets. So first we're going to add in the map. You can just drag that in. I'm going to drag in both maps as well. F2 to rename, and it's a good idea, especially if we're doing a larger composition, to rename all your nodes. Okay, so now we're going to want to connect this to an image plane, and we can connect that to the 3D merge. Then we can take the camera and just drag it backwards to reveal the map. And same thing with the zoomed out satellite. We're going to connect it to the merge 3D, and then that will create a zoomed out version. So you want to go to translation, and this will control how far back the zoomed out map is. So, but before we do that, you want to correct the scale. So in the scale, put 2, when it's double the resolution of the original map. And then you can make this slightly behind the original map. And then it comes up like that. And this just gives you a larger canvas to work with. So you can zoom out the camera more without it clipping. Okay, so now that we have our satellite images set up, we can start adding in the US map features. Now, there are 2 methods to do this. We can either use the SVG, which has more flexibility with how you can edit it, because you edit the outline and the interior with the polygon tools in DaVinci Resolve. So that is, I would say, the best way to do it. However, if you want just a simple outline where you can fade it in and out, then you can use the PNG method. Okay, so we'll start off with the PNG method just to show it. Okay, so I created a dot setting file template that will allow you to do this quicker, which I'll put on my Ko-fi store for free. So you can just go to the Ko-fi link and check that out. But once you have that dot setting file, you'll have 2. So you have the PNG fill and the asset filling SVG dot setting file. So because we're going to go to the PNG method first, you just want to take the PNG dot setting file and drag it into your node area. And then this is what will come up. So if we just check this out, you can see that this is the shape of the UK. Obviously, we don't want that. We want the US. So the way you can do that is just by replacing this UK image with the US image. So let's go and get the US image real quick. So you're going to get the US PNG and drag that into the node area. Rename it to US PNG. So delete the UK PNG and then just replace it. So put this into the garbage mats of these delta key as a mat control. And then the same thing should show up. So you can have the outline of the US showing up. Okay, so now that we've replaced the UK PNG with the US, we're going to create this image on the image plane. So once the image plane is there, we can then put this into the merge 3D. Okay, so the scaling is slightly off. So you can just go to the US PNG and type transform. And then you can use this transform node to just adjust the size. So something like that should be good enough. Okay, so that's the PNG method. You can go to the delta keyer, the matte, and then you can use this aurora dilate slider to increase the scale of the outline. You can obviously go to the glow node and change the glow, and you can obviously keyframe all of this as well. You can also go to the background and then change the color of the infill. So with this PNG method, you could adjust the glow. So if you go to the multi-merge, you can obviously use the blend node to adjust that and keyframe that in. So if you go to keyframe 0 and keyframe the blend, bring it down to 0, go a few frames forward, keyframe the blend back in, and you can use the spline tab to adjust that. So highlight these, press S, and that will have a smooth keyframe in. So you can also keyframe the interior color by going to the background and then changing the alpha in and out. And you can obviously keyframe that. But overall, I don't really like the PNG method because it doesn't give you that much control. You can't really animate the outline or anything like that. You can just animate the blends in and out. So for now, I'm actually going to delete this whole thing, and I'm going to be showing you guys the SVG method. Okay, so the SVG method, I'm going to be using the sd.setting file. Again, this is just a shortcut that makes it a little bit easier. You can get this for free on my Ko-fi page. So I set filling SVG polygon for maps. Just drag that in. So once you drag it in, you will get this node structure. Basically, how it works is you have your SVG for the country. You have an ellipse, which is keyframed. You don't have to do this. You can delete it if you want. Then you have the US flag, which is masked. But again, you can replace this with whatever flag you want or any image you want. So, and then you have this merge here. So we can press shift space and then use an image plane. And then we can connect this to the merge 3D. Okay, so you might have to change the transform to the yellow part, and then it should show up on the map here. Now, what we're actually going to do is going to remove the mainland US SVG. We'll remove that. We're going to change the image plane to 0.01. Obviously, now we want to mask this with the shape of the country. You want to import your SVG, but let's go to Fusion, import SVG, and then import the SVG that you got from QGIS. Press OK. And then here you want to actually ungroup it. So ungroup. Give you a bunch of SVGs because this includes all of the little islands and stuff like that. So you want to find the mainland US. Should be the first one. You see, that's the first one here. So all of these other files here are relevant. So just delete all of them. And now we're left with just the core US. Okay, so remember we have our main path, which is path 3. So we can rename that to, and we can remove that from there. We can add it back to our node structure like that. You can see that it's created this weird, like it's masking the outline. It's not actually masking the internals. So to fix that, you want to make sure that the polyline is closed. I'm going to highlight this entire polyline, and then I'm going to press this button here to close the loop. And then you want to go over here and then press solid, and then it should come solid like that. The flag is slightly misaligned, so we can go to transform for the flag, and we can move that down slightly, and I guess we can scale it slightly too. You can adjust this as you see fit. So we can delete this old stuff here. All right, so now we have the US filling with the mask ellipse like so, and now we're going to create the same thing, but we're going to be using the outline instead. So create another image plane for the outline. So image plane 3D, connect that to the merge, copy all of this and merge it to the image plane. Make sure the image plane is not clipping, so you want to put it slightly above. So translation 0.1, something like that, just slightly above. Go to the US shape, and then you want to close the loop, and that will give you the outline. So solid off, and then the border width should be able to control. So we'll make it quite skinny, like 0.03 or something like that. And then we're going to get rid of this ellipse mask, get rid of the flag, and you just want a background node. You change the color of the outline. So background that, and you can see that's the background of the US. So you can change the color of that to white, I guess. So white, or I guess you can add the glow afterwards. Glow. You can adjust that how you see fit. Also, the outline is quite thick, so it's 2.2. Now we can animate the outline. So if we go to the start, you go to the US shape here, then you can keyframe the position and the length. At the beginning, we can change the length to 0. That's 1. That's 0. And if you play forward, it's a little slow because rendered it yet. But so obviously that's the SVG method. I think that's much better because again, you can adjust what's inside the country. You can adjust the color of the outline, the glow of the outline. You can animate the outline, etc. PNG method is fine. Just doing a basic uh, animation, but this is certainly a better method, I think. Okay, so now we have the main animation done. We are going to move to animating the camera now. Go to camera 3D, transform. We can start keyframing this stuff. So let's keyframe this at the start. The Z zoomed out. And when it starts kind of animating, so somewhere around there, I guess, or here, when it's just about to finish, we can obviously then zoom the camera in slightly, something like that. I'm going to change the Y to there. Should look pretty good. But this is slightly too zoomed out, if anything. So let's zoom in slightly. That. Then, again, smooth it out. It should look pretty good. In the original video, there was like a cloud transition, and I'm going to be showing you guys how to do that as well. I'm going to be using an image plane and a fast noise node to animate that. Okay, so to animate the clouds, we're going to add another image plane. So shift space image plane 3D. We're going to add that to the merge 3D again. And we are going to change the translation of this way up. Then we will add fast noise node. So then you can see that kind of changes it to like a cloud effect. So, but let's see where the camera actually goes in. So the camera goes like that. Okay, so that's when it's kind of go halfway. So like there maybe, and then we can move the image plane basically right up to the camera. Something like you want it to be touching the camera basically at this point. So let's move that all the way almost to the camera frame here. Like that. Then comes in, zooming in, and eventually it will like pop through the clouds like that. And the clouds don't look that good right now, so let's adjust the fast noise, increase the detail, and change the scale, something like that. And I mean, you can adjust this as you see fit. Obviously, I guess that looks fine. Looks good enough. But you can see there's quite an abrupt jump. Like when the camera is actually going through the fast noise layer, it just abruptly cuts off. So we don't want that. So about this frame where it goes through. So maybe, I don't know, a few frames before, we can reduce the opacity slightly. So go to the image plane and then opacity and keyframe that. It goes through here. And I guess we can just reduce the opacity to 0. So it kind of looks like it's going through the clouds without an abrupt stop. There you go. And then it will show the US flag animating. Now, the final touch is we're going to be going back to the timeline, and we're going to actually move this fusion composition over here slightly. I'm going to go back to the video where this map animation came from, and this is the scene here. In fact, let's go to the rendered one. I don't want to explode my PC, so let's copy that. Let's go to tutorial example. Let's paste that in, and I'll just do the last few frames, like here. So you can see in this one, you can see that as I zoomed out, you see the clouds forming. So again, that's the same exact method that I used before. Instead of zooming the camera in and adding the clouds, you're just zooming the camera out and adding the clouds. It's the same thing, just in reverse. So let's start like here. And then we can show you a slight improvement that makes the clouds look even better. This cloud transition. Let's put these two clips together. So if I play this, you can see, and it does, but that's a pretty harsh transition, right? Like that's not a particularly nice transition. Let me actually turn the playback on smart. Yeah, so there is still kind of an abrupt change. So you can see here, and then boom, it doesn't look that convincing, right? So we're gonna actually add an adjustment layer. So let's add that to the timeline above. We can use a fast noise. So if you go to Open Effects, apply the fast noise to the adjustment clip, like so. Okay, so if you change the fast noise preset to smoke, like that, it should improve. And then obviously you want to use these sliders here to change the opacity. So it looks like it's fading in. And then eventually gets to the point where it's about to transition. And again, you can still see that transition. It's a little abrupt. So if you go to my original video, you can see that I actually added across dissolve as well. And that really sells the transition. So, but again, it's the same method. You just add a fast noise on this adjustment clip, across dissolve between the two clips, and then you get a pretty convincing transition. So you can check out in the Ko-fi store those templates or those dot setting files, and those will just help you make these map animations faster. You might have to do some adjustment, but again, it gives you the kind of template layout, and then you can adjust the images or the maps or the SVGs as needed. So yeah, I'll see you guys in this video. Peace.